Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Alright, this earnings call had a lot packed in, so I made it in two parts. So let's continue. Elon says the two things that improve costs are economies of scale and core technology, something we've modelled often and obviously agree. They said they start with some excess and then don't know how lean you can get it until you've done it a couple of times. Elon then brings us to the atomic level of trying to get the right atoms in the right position, but it takes a lot of effort over time to find out what is the atomic ideal. They may need to create a new alloy and figure out how to cast it, for example. Then they go into more details and say that they've saved 4 or 5 kilos just on die iterations. They're saving weight and cost on every atom they can find. Then the rear casting is given a B-, implying the rear castings still has a way to improve. This is really huge. Tesla are doing so much on a big scale with structural battery packs and actual front and rear molds. These have been such big jumps at once. I haven't really given too much thought about them even evolving to be better and better. Wow, Tesla are not stopping at anything. Of course these improvements are happening at breakneck speeds. The rest of the industry must be in shock and awe of what is happening. How is this possible? How can anyone build a car like that and so fast and for such little cost? Yet Elon is telling us that they're still only about a C or B-, as in this is just the start still, and that there's so much more to come. And what I'm saying is it's not just batteries or the die-casts either, it's everything, right down to the atomic level. Elon says they have a team of 120 people in their software AI group that are extremely talented. Elon says he is highly confident they will solve full self-driving. So if FSD was feature complete and Tesla was selling 2 million cars a year and 30% of those sales bought FSD and it was $20,000 for FSD, then that is $12 billion income for FSD in a year. Now, what PE ratio do you place on FSD that is safer than an average human driver and the potential to be a better driver than James Bond? Then, of course, the inevitable advancements to robo-taxis. Would it be a PE of 100, 200, 500? Well, if it's just 100, then that's about $1 trillion extra onto Tesla's stock price. I think only about 10% of Tesla's current valuation is actually for FSD, so this would be huge for Tesla. So Elon is saying he is highly confident he will solve FSD, but he is also still saying it feels like this year. And I've been saying lately reasons as to why it really could be this year. Anyway, I also refer to it as our lottery ticket, but I kind of feel like we've just got one more of our numbers called. It's getting pretty close to hitting that jackpot now. And then some 4680 questions. They're asked how the ramp is going. Luckily someone did. And if they're making sales at Texas yet. They are making progress on 4680 and expect Tesla to hit total 4680 production of 1K a week by the end of the year. Drew goes on to say that hopefully that occurs well before the end of the year though. And I think it was likely that this is what Elon was referring to about Texas not doing 1K a week for a few more months, as they obviously have supplier 2170 cells available. He also says Kato Road has had some major breakthroughs, for they made advances on the dry anode electrode tool, resulting in 35% month-over-month production increase. Yields are already at targets as well. They've applied these new processes to the 4680 production line in Texas, but this is going to create some new ramp challenges for Texas. Cell equipment was finally installed in Texas, and they produced their first commissioned car with 4680's end to the line. And then Texas should be capable of overtaking Kato Road output for 4680 cells by the end of this year. Alright, so if Kato Road is at 1 million units in June and increasing at 35% month over month, that means the run rate would reach 6 million units a month by then. So perhaps Texas will be producing around 6 million 4680 cells a month. That would also be about 600 megawatt hours a month, or around a run rate of 7 gigawatt hours a year. The target was 100 gigawatt hours run rate by the end of this year, but perhaps once we reach that 7 gigawatt hour, then it will happen a lot faster. Oh, also, that's just Texas of course. There is still Kato Road, which would also be on the same run rate, and maybe even something coming out of Berlin by then too. Anyway, about 14 million 4680 cells a month would be enough for 15,000 4680 vehicles a month, with Elon saying that they'll hit about 1,000 a week in a few months. This may be about right. Remember, this is just 4680 vehicles. Then a question about suppliers, and we find out that Tesla procures about 1,600 unique pieces of silicon, but from 43 semiconductor companies. We're then told that Tesla has long-term contracts with all their partners for key battery metals. Alright, we've all assumed that Tesla were smart enough to lock in massive contracts with their suppliers for long-term, but they just confirmed that they have, implying inflation will not affect Tesla overly for battery metals necessarily. The thing is though, anyone new starting out now, well, they will be affected with new pricing. No one can do anything for less cost than Tesla in any capacity, like for like, including sourcing the raw minerals. Then we move on to the analyst questions. Then Pierre Ferragu asks the all-important question and asks how much silicon is in the cell and how much energy improvement have they seen in the 4680. And Pierre also asks about some of the behavior from the owners, and Pierre suggests these may be software-limited 4680 Model Ys coming out of Austin. Drew says that the initial 4680 ramp isn't going to include all the bells and whistles at the start. Their priority was on simplicity and scale, and they are planning to layer in a new material, technologies in higher range structural packs. They go on to say they're not holding back goodies, yet we know they held back the acceleration upgrade and then cancelled it. So we don't really know entirely what they're playing around with here. Hopefully we'll get more info on the cells on a teardown soon. Their focus right now are dozens of little issues that prohibit the production ramp of the 4680, e.g. feeding the anode and cathode material due to the revolutionary new dry electrode process. When something is revolutionary, there are a lot of unknowns that need to be solved, but Elon says he is confident he can resolve these unknowns, but it's very difficult. The first order of business is get the basics right, get to high volume and high reliability, which makes absolute sense and is what we thought. I mean, we weren't expecting a few more years until we were at the potential disclosed on Battery Day, but I think even after that, there'll still be more years of improvements in new iterations. And once they're in mass production, Tesla can very rapidly enhance the energy density and costs from there. Elon said very rapidly. That sounds pretty positive. Tesla just need to get the basics right rather than adding extra complexity. Once they're able to get to sufficient run rates, then they can start altering things like the cell chemistry, which is also revolutionary. So it just makes sense to probably have as few revolutionary things as possible at a time, which would likely make things easier to find errors. Anyway, after that, Elon says, we are highly confident of a good outcome. And it sounds like they've made great advances in Kato with the dry process, which I inferred as being a big deal. And Drew wanted to point out that these other high energy density technologies we hear about are not scalable. They may be produced in a lab or be designed for some niche applications. Tesla are making batteries that can scale to the extreme. So if you want to compare the success of any other battery to the 4680, then compare how they scale. Tesla's mission is how do they scale as fast as possible? Because remember, Tesla want to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy, which would imply as fast as possible. But Tesla are being selfish, keeping all this proprietary technology to themselves, not sharing it with anyone else. You would think if they were serious about climate change, then they would need all the help they can get. But then Drew says, we're taking these risks that we've discussed at Battery Day. As we de-risk them, and they are successful, we want to bring it back to our partners too. Wow, to what level we don't know. Likely silicon in the anodes, possibly even dry battery electrode processors. This is huge in itself and probably needs its own video, and I would say they're most likely referring to Panasonic first. Elon says he's often asked if there is some technological breakthrough required in order for the world to transition sustainably. The answer is no. Even if there were zero breakthroughs in technology, we could fully transition Earth to sustainable energy. The issue is the rate at which the entire supply chain, from mining to refining to cell production, how fast can that grow? Or, as I like to call it, the bandwidth. I don't want to skip over the content on this call. There is so much here to digest, so I'm going to continue again on another video. I'm getting my head around what's happening here and look forward to reporting, but so much has been said. Although I do wish someone asked what the expected 4680 energy density will be sometime next year. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.